by Leeds in the form of the fullback Gill. It's a penalty. It's against Leeds, so the first penalty of the match goes to the Australians, and that will relieve some pressure outside their 22. So Lewis to look for touch on the members' side of this famous Headingley ground. He'll try and take play over the halfway line. In fact, that's a great kick from Wally Lewis. Takes play midway between the half and the 22 at Leeds end of the ground. So the fullback Gill is receiving attention as Niebling takes play upfield. In there effecting the tackle was Peter Smith. Australia on the attack. Roach again. Strong running by the big Balmain prop forward Simmons. Sterling, the crisscross with Cleal. Support of Lewis, support of Simmons, but he knocks it on. Picked up by Eddinghausen, and he's taken to ground by Peter Sterling. So the fullback Gill still getting attention in centre field as the captain David Heron takes play outfield. Loose ball dived on this time by Gascoigne, but the referee will have no alternative than to pack a scrum down, and it's only about 10 metres out from the Leeds line. So a chance now for the Australians to really launch an attack on the Leeds line. It's Sterling to work the scrum. Gusty conditions here at Headingley. Scrum win. Lindner loses it. Dived on by Gascoigne. So there was a scoring opportunity gone begging, Gary.
Yeah, it certainly was. Obviously, the Australians have decided they're going to throw the ball around a little bit, and they've got themselves in a little bit of problem early. I think Donny Furner's not going to be very happy with the couple of loose balls they've thrown.
It's a bumping run from Smith. The ball's gone loose, and back goes Francis, the left winger, for Leeds, but he's wrestled to the ground 10 metres out from his own line. So it's McGaw that goes into dummy half. He elects to run on his own. Oh, he's crunched by Roach. Well, there was a nice welcome from one Australian to another on opposing sides. Here's Smith. And again, Simmons going right around the knees to put him on the ground. Just short of their own 22. There's Holmes. You'll see plenty of kicking from him today. The ball holding up in the breeze. The safe hands of Michael O'Connor. Probably one of the most gifted pair of hands in the Australian side, Gary, is Michael O'Connor.
Yeah, it's very safe. He's got good ball control, and it's just what we need out of the wing there. The boys are willing to throw the ball around a little bit, and I think we're going to see a bit of that coming up now.
Roach and Sirenen. It's good running by the Australian forwards. Good support play by the big Balmain second rower. Backing up Roach. Sterling. Out it goes to Kenny, and good pass to Jack. Jack inside the 22. Les Kiss is grounded by Morris the hooker. Cleal, a dummy half, out through Sterling, and in turn Lewis. Lewis looked for the gap, got the pass away beautifully. Miles, O'Connor beautifully tackled by Creaser. Leeds defence is stretched. Simmons, Sterling calling for it, but he puts the kick through. Play on, Lewis, try to Australia. Confusion in the in-goal by Leeds, but Wally Lewis comes up with his second try of the tour, and great lead-up work by Roy Simmons.
Yes, that's very good for the Australians to get the points on the board early. Here we have the replay. I think the kick from Simmons was touched by one of the Leeds players on the way through.
Paul Gill looked very slow there, but Lewis wasn't. Great try to Australia, and they lead by 4 points to 0. A chance now to convert his captain's try from right to the left of the uprights. This should pose no problems for the Manly recruit. The flags go up, and Australia are in the lead by 6 points to 0, and we've had just on 5 minutes of play in this first half. Bobby Lindner, good strong run, taking play well upfield. Obviously not suffering any lack of confidence in that rather nasty whack he got below the eye in the Wigan game, Gary.
Yeah, Bobby's also carrying a cork thigh, and he's been doing a lot of work on it, staying up late at night, putting a lot of ice on it, so obviously he's got the injury right for today's game.
Well, there's a kick deep downfield by Peter Sterling. The ball, in fact, will run dead in goal. Well, I was over at the training session here yesterday, Gary, and I had a look at the team going through its paces, and when I first saw Paul Gill, the fullback, I thought he looked more like a front row forward. Yeah, he hasn't got a great deal of pace there, has he?
No, he's quite big. He didn't show a lot of pace when Wally beat him to the ball.
I think you'll find that Lewis and Sterling might sound that out before this match is much older. So there's the little halfback Gascoigne taking play up midway between the half and the quarter line at Leeds end of the ground. It's Morris, then to Holmes. It goes out through the big prop forward Gratian. Here's a great bust.
The second row of Price.
Beautiful prod from Price. There's the kick infield by Ettinghausen. All onside. The ball's there. Lewis is back and saves the day for Australia. But what a reply from Leeds. A tremendous bust by Gary Price.
Yeah, that was great play, and you can see the pace of Andrew Ettinghausen. I think one of the troubles that Australia are going to have today is the pairing of Ettinghausen and McGaw, who are a great centre pairing.
Well, there's the big bust by the second row forward, and we see the great backing up here, as you mentioned, Gary from Ettinghausen.
Yeah, good play here. He was cornered. He had no other option but to kick in field, and nearly brought a try off for the Leeds side.
Well, you can see the referee waving play on. It was only the Australian skipper, Wally Lewis, who got back and saved the day for the Kangaroos.
It must be that little bit of extra fitness work Wally's been doing.
Well, Wally has been doing a little bit of extra work here on this tour, which is great to see. I think it was brought up in 1982 that Frank Stanton wasn't all that impressed with Wally Lewis's workload. But he's leading by example. Touch judge in on the far side. And I think it may be against Noel Cleal or Steve Roach. It's Roachy, in fact, the man that earns the referee's ire. And interesting to note that Robin Whitfield, the referee, has in fact changed his jersey. Started this match. We'll have a look at this in replay first, Gary. Well, it didn't appear to be too much wrong with that. But Robin Whitfield, I was quite surprised when he came out wearing the white jersey today. I thought it would tone in quite nicely with Leeds, and obviously the Australian captains asked him to change it.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit silly of the referee to come out in white colours.
Of course, Leeds normally play in the blue and gold and not the white, blue and gold, so possibly Robin Whitfield thought they would have been playing in the blue and gold jersey here today. It goes out through Gratian. Beautiful pass back inside to Price. Gratian, and Australia's defence is stretched. Gascoigne goes into dummy half and a penalty against Roy Simmons.
I think that was just for a professional foul holding him down.
Well, let's see young David Creaser coming in from the right wing. He's the prolific goal kicker for the Leeds side. So Creaser with the ball placed with a chance of pulling back Australia's lead if this kick is successful. Australia lead by 6 points to 0. 10 minutes gone first half. There's the kick, and he's missed it. And the crowd tell the story. The pressure getting to young Creaser. Australia 6, Leeds 0. So it's Leeds in possession. It goes out through Gratian and then to Smith. And he's beautifully grasped by Peter Sterling, just short of the halfway line. Gascoigne again. Held up by Gratian. He, of course, was out in the 79 tour to Australia as well. He played in the second and third tests of that particular series. Morris out to Holmes and a turn to Price. Well, he looks a pretty impressive second row forward, Gary Price. He's made two very good busts.
Yeah, he is. He's playing quite well. I think he might have felt that one from Paul Sirenen, but he's not a small lad, Paul, and he hit him pretty hard then.
So John Holmes elects to take the tap, and that puts Leeds on the attack through Morris. Beat one tackle. Finally claimed by his opposite number, Roy Simmons. Gascoigne. It goes out again through Gratian and to Holmes. To Ettinghausen. And Australia's defence stands to the test. It was through the form of Big Steve Roach. Again through Holmes. That pass was forward. Gee, that was a yard forward, but not detected by referee Robin Whitfield.
And the crowd didn't see it either.
Holmes. That's Phil Owen, the big lanky second row forward from Leeds. Gascoigne, a dummy half. Out again through Gratian. You'll see him stand and try to unload throughout this match.
Peter Sterling in there doing a lot of work for the Australians.
His defensive workload superb also against Wigan in the opening match of this tour. And there's the safe hands again of Michael O'Connor. This time that big step of O'Connor's didn't work because Creaser wrapped him up well and truly. Cleal, don't be surprised to see him run from dummy half. There he goes upfield and runs straight to Gratian. Well, Crusher, in fact, celebrated a birthday during the week, Gary. He is, of course, the oldest man of this touring party.
Yeah, he's the old man of the tour, and the boys let him know about it too.
I know that he was a little bit concerned during the week. His youngster had some 7 stitches put and a little chin gash that he got from falling off his bike, and I'm sure if he's watching this telecast at the moment, Dad sends his best wishes. I know that he would love to be over there to make sure the young kid's okay.
Yeah, sure would.
These are some of the problems when the side is away They're so far from home, and I can tell you most of them are already missing their families. So, scrum win to Leeds. Gascoigne to Holmes. Oh, there's the drop ball by McGaw, and it's dived on by Miles. Lewis, a dummy half, turning it for Cleal on the burst. And again, Gary Price showing good defensive qualities as well. Simmons coming towards the commentary side through Sterling to Lewis and then Kenny. Lovely pass out for Kiss. Got around Francis. Over the 22. Where's the support of Australia? It's Sterling. Roach, Cleal. Cleal on his own with support out wide. Lindner, play on, says the referee. Lindner straight upfield. Support of Kiss, but he's lost the ball.
Well, Les Kiss did everything then but score the try. It was great work of him up on the right-hand touchline. He's backed up again on the other side of the field.
Well, he was rewarded with the try against Wigan, but the try not forthcoming in the early minutes of this match against Leeds. So it's Morris that brings the ball back to the 22. It's taken upfield by David Heron, the captain of Leeds. 15 minutes of play gone in this first half. 6-0 the scoreline. Owen to his feet. Gratian, Morris, Gascoigne, nowhere to go. Claim by Sirinen. The straight line of defence of Australia exploited by Holmes as he's claimed by Sirinen. The tackle, the ball's rolling end on end. Back goes O'Connor for Australia. He has the support of Gary Jack, but runs on his own, and he's claimed to the tackle this time by Eddinghausen of Leeds. Simmons, now for Sterling, for Gary Jack. Well, I suppose both you and Gary would have been personally happy with your own form in the two opening matches of the tour, Gary. Gary Jack, of course, a superb touch against Wigan, and I thought you yourself had an outstanding game against Hull Kingston Rovers.
Yeah, I was fairly happy with my debut. It's still a little bit rusty, not having played for a few weeks. Gary did have a good game against Wigan, actually. I thought he should have got the Man of the Match award.
Here we go now, Cleal taking it upfield. And play about 12 metres inside Leeds into the ground. Now watch for the Australian captain, Lewis, coming the short side. Has the support outside of Les Kiss. Runs straight to Francis. The ball's come out the back to Roach. Knock back. But the referee will rule it a knock on as he comes to grips with John Holmes.
Steve Roach is having a little cuddle with John Holmes there. Of course, he's the legend of the side, John Holmes. He's played something like 600 matches for the club, which is something unbelievable. I think their seasons are so much longer here. They play about 40 games in a season.
Well, in fact, he retired last year, but from what I understand, he couldn't stay away from the game for too long. And I suppose after 600 matches, you'd either be sick of it or really just want to get back into it again.
Yeah, have you got any idea of his age?
I think he's around about 33. So, they have possession of the ball now. Leeds. It's taken out by Heron, and he's taken over the top by Roach and underneath by Niebling, but he's lost the ball in the tackle, and referee Robin Whitfield whistles it up once again for the scrum.
Well, here's a good attacking opportunity for the Australians. They've got the feed, and they're almost they're only about 35 metres out, so I think you'll see the ball thrown around a little bit here by the backs.
So the scrum's 2-all. It's a scrum win to Australia. Lewis showing his real strength. 6-0 Australia lead the match. Jack leaves it behind him, picked up by Miles. To Jack, to Kiss. And Australia going backwards. And the crowd love it.
It's a good tackle from Mark McGaw.
Roach charging upfield. Phil Owen with the tackle as the sun shines again here at Headingley. Cleal. Simmons a dummy half. Out through Sterling. Watch for the long pass from Lewis. Oh, it's gone behind. Picked up by O'Connor. Well, that's a move that they've been working at training with the cutout pass of Miles. That time the pass from Wally Lewis is astray. There's the ball in the air. That will put pressure on Gill, the fullback. Watch for Lindner. But Gill takes it.
Did very well to hold on to that ball. He's under a lot of pressure from the Australians.
Well, Australia running with the aid of a very strong breeze in this first half. And I suppose you could look at it, Gary, to probably being at least a 10-point breeze.
Yeah, and I think it might be a little bit telling in the second half. If Leeds can hang on to a close margin in the first half, the Australians might be under a little bit more pressure.
Well, that's where we could see John Holmes really come into his own. He's a superb tactician and a tactical kicker. So Australia will be looking for more points in this first half, as it's taken upfield by Jeff Gratian.
He's another player that's been around for a fair while, isn't he, Jeff Gratian?
Yeah, well, he was out, 7 years ago in Australia. Formerly with Bradford Northern. He was part of a double transfer deal with Andy Gascoigne this year.
Well taken, Les Kiss.
Here's Kiss now. What a season he's had. Cleal is a man in a dummy half. Out through Sterling. To Gary Jack. Through the dummy, beautifully to Kenny. Gary Jack through the gap. Support of O'Connor. Oh, and Gill was lucky to get him play on. Gary Jack, that's a try to Australia.
Oh,
no, he's short. It's a try.
It's a try.
Superb support play by Gary Jack. Thoroughly deserved the try. And Australia score their second with the game just 20 minutes old. Well, he had a big hand in it, Gary.
Oh, he did all the lead-up work and almost put Michael O'Connor over in the corner, but then he backed up again after going down on the ground. Good work, Gary Jack.
Well, O'Connor came inside, Gill lost his footing, and now watch the support play of Gary Jack and the power and strength of the Balmain fullback. Over he goes for the try, and the referee right on the spot to award it. So Gary Jack scores his first try on this Kangaroo tour, his 8th try, in fact, in Australia's colours. So Michael O'Connor successful with his first attempt. That was the conversion of Wally Lewis' try. And a chance for Australia to go to a 12-0 lead. It looks a good kick. It's hit the posts. No goal. And so the scoreline, after 22 minutes of play in this first half, Australia 10, Leeds 0. So Australia in the lead as Simmons goes from dummy half. And that's a part of the play that Simmons' rival in this tour, Benny Elias, enjoyed against Hull Kingston Rovers last Wednesday night, scoring 2 great tries. There's the kick from Lewis. Gill coming across. Takes it off the knee, takes it to the 22, runs to Cleal and also to Lindner. Lindner and Simmons, in fact, affecting the tackle. Francis runs from dummy half. Good tackle from Kenny. Smith, Morris. Taken upfield that time by Phil Owen. Gascoigne, a dummy half for Gratian. He's a cumbersome big prop forward, but he's got great ball skills, which is typical, Gary, of most of the English prop forwards.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Here's Morris.
They don't mind throwing the ball around. I think you're seeing John Holmes setting himself up here for a kick.
And so O'Connor drops back on the far side, but he comes towards Les Kiss's wing. Kiss's positional play was ideal as well. Runs across field. Beat the tackle of Price, but can't beat Gascoigne. So Royce Simmons back at dummy half. Taken upfield by Lindner. Good run by the Australian lock forward, taking it up towards the halfway line. As the sun disappears behind the clouds and the temperature drops again here at Headingley. I suppose it's around about 8 degrees today. Up around Harrogate early this morning, there was sleet and snow. So the English winter is starting to set in.
Yeah, we see any overrunning Gene Miles there, a little bit of confusion, and has been penalised for a shepherd.
So the penalty goes against Australia. In fact, Leeds leading the penalties 4-1 in this first half. We'll have memories of the match on at Hull during the week, Gary. I think it was 21 points, 21 penalties to Australia's 6.
Yes, it was quite funny, David. Afterwards, we were in the clubhouse having a drink, and some English supporters commented the referee gave us too much of a good go. So I don't know what they wanted.
So Morris now a dummy half for Smith. And big Peter Smith takes play up to about 10 metres short of the 22 at Australia's end of the ground. The crowd warming in anticipation of a Leeds raid. There's Gratian. Oh, beautiful pass, but knocked on by Heron. And in fact taken by Australia through Jack. Running it wide now through Sirenen. Comes to Eddinghausen, bumps him off. Has O'Connor outside. But finally driven in the tackle by Gill, the fullback. Gary Jack out to Simmons, to Sterling, to Niebling. Loses the ball. And that should be a knock on. No, it's play on. Through Morris, the hooker of Leeds. Gascoigne a dummy half. It goes out through Holmes, and in turn for Phil Owen. And he's taken right in the middle of the halfway line. So 25 minutes of play gone in this first half, and Australia lead by 10 points to 0. Heron searching for the opening, but Lewis and Sterling combine. Gascoigne, Gratian, the wraparound with Gascoigne. Pass for Holmes. Comes back to the centre of the field, but he's bumped to the ground that time by big Steve Roach.
Roy Simmons going through a mountain of work in the middle out there.
Gascoigne, Smith, oh, good tackle by Siren, and that pass looked forward. Final tackle for Leeds as Gill comes up. Well, that was clever play. He came up and kicked it straight into touch on the full. So play, in fact, will come back for the scrum about 10 metres inside Australia's end of the ground. Well, I hope he hasn't been rehearsing that move at training Gary all week.
No, obviously it wasn't a planned move, I don't think. One thing I have noticed, David, the referee here seems to be enforcing the 5-yard rule a little bit better than we've seen in the last 2 matches.
Well, that's something that the Australians have been concerned about, and let's hope that that continues right through the Test series, because certainly I thought you were restricted a little bit with that in the Wigan match.
Yeah, we sure were.
There's the kick from Lewis. Back goes Francis. Pressure from Kiss. But Francis saves the day for Leeds about a yard out from his own line. No support back there, though, for the Leeds side. Kick through by Gene Miles, and Gill allows it to go dead in goal. So Paul Gill, the 27-year-old fullback from Leeds, has had a couple of bad years with injuries. A broken leg 2 years ago. That was against St Helens, but he's back in force and has won his place back in this side.
A lost ball that the referee didn't pick up then.
There's Phil Owen. Well, he certainly is enforcing, I'd say, closer to a 10-yard from the play of the ball, Gary. It was good to see. It opens the game up.
Yeah, well, it's more like what we're used to back home in Australia, and I think that's what we need.
Now, let's see if he's consistent at the other end.
Not really.
Not quite. Cleal and O'Connor to Gary Jack. There's Niebling. Had a very impressive game against Wigan in the opening tour match. Now Roach running wide. Goes to ground with the ball in the centre of the 22 line. Simmons. Watch for Kenny and Sterling and Lewis here as they come towards the commentary side of this Headingley Stadium. Lewis. Back up support of Cleal. And that ball was really drifting around on the breeze here at Headingley. That pass that came across from Sterling to Lewis. Now Sterling saw the gap, kicked through. Oh, and Paul Gill has to come back and save the day again. So play, in fact, will be restarted at the goal line. So we're just short of the 30-minute mark of this first half, and Australia lead by 10 points to 0. I mentioned, Gary, that I thought it was around about a 10-point breeze, so I think Australia would like just a few more points on the board going in towards the half-time break.
Yeah, they sure would.
Gene Miles from dummy half runs, comes straight to Gary Price, the second row forward, and the support also of Peter Smith. Simmons, Sterling, the wraparound with Simmons. Couldn't unload the final pass as Gratian goes over the top. So Sirinen feeds Roach. Roach charges upfield. Niebling. Ryan Niebling couldn't get the pass away to Kenny. And Leeds, in fact, come up with possession a yard out from their own line.
I think Brian got the pass away to Bob Morris, the country hooker.
Probably thought he was another Australian, Gary.
Yeah, it was the accent if he was calling for the ball.
Heron, good break by the Leeds captain.
Good cover defence from big Steve Roach.
Well, hasn't he worked hard on his fitness on this tour?
He sure has. Most of the guys are very keen. We had a day off from training today, but we still had a lot of the seconds guys, or the guys that aren't playing today, doing extra training, which is good to see.
There's Smith. Wrestled to the ground by Royce Simmons. Gascoigne, Holmes, there's the kick again. Retreating is O'Connor and also Gary Jack. O'Connor elects to run towards the far touchline, but loses his footing. Jack, Sterling, Gary Jack. The Australian forwards very slow to get back. Gary Jack driven back by Owen and Gary Price. And Morris as well. There's Simmons, Sterling, Lewis, Miles, Lovely pass for Kenny, but he left it behind. And so play will come back for the scrum.
Eugene and Brett seem to be having a little bit of an unhappy time out there at the moment.
Well, either of them can't afford to rest on their laurels after the performance of Big Mal Meninga during the week, Gary.
Mel had a great game, and I think also there's a few other positions that there's a pressure on. Benny Elias had a really good game, so we expect Roy Simmons to play well today.
Holmes, Gill, Magore. Good run by the Cronulla centre. His captain Heron comes to dummy half. Out to Holmes. Cuts out Price. Got it to Eddinghausen. And E.T., as he's known back home, beats the tackle of Brett Kenny, but goes to ground with O'Connor. Gascoigne saw the gap up the middle. And I mentioned earlier, the Australian forwards seem to be a little slow getting back, Gary. Have you picked that up?
Yeah, they are a little bit. I thought the run against Wigan would have done most of these guys. Their fitness would have done.
Here's Francis.
Well,
and Simmons with the cover. I'll tell you what, this Leeds side look good when they throw the ball around.
They sure do. As with most of the English sides, they, although their defence probably isn't up to scratch, they certainly love to throw the ball around.
Morris, and we saw again that ability of Gratian to unload the pass as we hit the 30-minute mark of the first half. About 32 minutes of play gone as the penalty goes to Leeds. Their fifth of the game, only one to Australia, and John Holmes kicks for touch on the popular side, as it's known, of Headingley Stadium. The chants go up as Leeds about to launch an attack. They trail by 10 points to 0. Here's Gratian feeding Magore. Gee, that's a determined run by the big Australian centre. Morris, Gratian, Smith. 13 metres out from the Australian goal line. Leeds on the attack. Gratian, Heron. Got through the gap. But I think he's lost possession. Well, I tell you what, the Australian defence looks a little vulnerable.
Yeah, the Leeds guys are willing to throw the ball around. They're keeping the crowd on their toes. I think Australians are going to have to clean up their act a little bit here.
So pressure on the Australians, 10 metres out from their own line. 8 minutes of play remaining to half-time. They've got a 10 points to 0 lead. But remembering, they're running with the aid of a very strong breeze. Referee Whitfield wants another scrum to pack down.
Yes, David, one thing that we noticed in the Wigan game, with anyone at home that's seen the game, the Australians, we had a little bit of a problem not getting the man with the ball and stopping the tackle. If you let them hold it up, they'll just keep throwing the ball around all day.
Well, that was a superb comeback by Wigan in that first match, Gary, and that really did test the Australian defence. As we see Lindner come down the field towards the 22.
Yes, David, I think it did us the world of good. It gave us a bit of a fright, which is what we needed early in the match before we got too overconfident.
Of course, the first Test match is just 6 days away, being played at Old Trafford. And you'll be able to catch that action here on Channel 10 with Rex Bossop and Graham Hughes live next Saturday night here on 10. Paul Gill retreats. But O'Connor's defence is there with the aid of Brett Kenny. There's the knock on by Creaser. And this wind really starting to gust here at Headingley. And I'm sure that Wally Lewis would be hoping to sneak a few more points in the final 5 minutes. There they are under the careful eye of the local constabulary here at Leeds. Quite a good crowd, braving the elements. Although the sun is shining, it's still very, very cold here in Leeds. Penalty Australia, as the two little bantamweights, Sterling and Gascoigne, come to grips. Lewis will look for touch. There it's the kick, so Australia will win back possession. 10 metres out from the Leeds line. Sterling now for Lewis. Niebling leaves it behind. Well, they really can't afford these errors, Gary, because they must score some more points, in my opinion, before this half-time break.
Yeah, I think they need some more points. The control of the ball hasn't been so good for the Australians.
There's Smith driven back by Lindner.
Fortunately, the lead side haven't been able to put any tries on the board to date.
Gratian out for Eddinghausen. Oh, he's swamped by Sirenen. Gascoigne. Played just short of the 22 at Leeds end of the ground. Gratian couldn't unload the pass on this occasion. Cleal and also Niebling came over the top. Morris now feeding Gascoigne. There's the kick. Swirling ball for Gary Jack. Running off him is O'Connor, but Jack goes on his own and makes a valuable 10 or 15 metres. Lidner now for Lewis. Sterling, Gene Miles, Brett Kenny. Oh, the pass again going astray. Well, I just feel as though the Australians in attack are under a little bit of pressure and probably popping the passes up that really aren't on at the moment, Gary, which is really not particularly on that occasion, but close to the ruck, they're popping up passes that just aren't on.
Yeah, they're just trying a little bit too much at the moment. I think they've got to settle the play down a little bit.
They lead 10-0 as we fast approach half-time here at Headingley. Les Kiss. Stepping run by the Australian winger Lewis. Quick hand Sterling. Here's a go for Australia. They've got the numbers. Kenny. Sterling. Michael O'Connor. Great try to Australia. Superb try, and it couldn't have come at a better time.
Well, here we have the replay, and after some good lead-up work from Kiss, Peter Sterling decided to take the run. And good work from Brett Kenny here.
And good support again by Sterling. Pass over the top for O'Connor, and around he goes.
He's always in position, Michael O'Connor.
Well, he scored a try in his first touch on English soil against Wigan just a week ago. So Michael O'Connor has scored his second try of this Kangaroo tour. .37 minutes of play gone first half. O'Connor with the ball placed 11 metres in from the far touchline. Let's watch the flight of the ball. Curling back in, 2 points to Australia. And so they go to a very handy 16 points to 0 lead. Just a couple of minutes short of half-time. So the Australians now have scored 3 tries to 0 in the opening 38 minutes of play in this first half. And that probably is the buffer we needed, because I'm sure that this man in picture, Gary Belcher, John Holmes, the number 6 for Leeds, will make things difficult for the Australians in that second half with that trusty right boot of his.
Yes, as you mentioned earlier, David, he's got a very deft kicking game, and the Australians are going to find themselves turned around a lot in the second half, I'd say.
Les Gill back retreating in defence for Leeds. Picked up now, runs to Roach. Got the pass away to Creaser. Oh, and Roachy got across there to do the cover as well. Niebling in also to effect the tackle. I think he might have hurt Creaser on that occasion. There's Smith. Well, as we look at the half-time hooter about to sound, I have been impressed, though, Gary, with the Leeds, the way they have thrown the ball around. Unlucky on a couple of occasions. We saw a great break by Price. Down the left-hand side here by Mark McGaw.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with the way that Gary Price is playing, and Mark McGaw and E.T. are finding it a little bit hard to get into the game, I think, at the moment, but we've got to remember too, Mark's just come off a plane from Australia, and he might be a little bit jet-lagged still.
So Lewis effecting the tackle about 8 metres out from the 22. There's Holmes keeping the ball. Well, it's not over the top of Les Kiss. He came back very well indeed. Actually, the positional play of both the Australian wingers has been first class in this match so far. Dropping back for those kicks over the top from John Holmes. And his kicking game really hasn't posed a great threat at this stage. There's Sirinen. But that could well change when Leeds turn around and run with the aid of this very strong breeze in the second 40 minutes. Simmons. Roach. Back in for Cleal. Beautiful pass, Kenny. Step back inside, Smith. Long pass. Lindner. Over the 22. Miles. Jack. Simmons. O'Connor, second try for Michael O'Connor. That was a superb Australian try.
Yes, I think that's the sort of football that the crowd's turned out here today to see and come to expect after what the Australians did in the last tour.
So Michael O'Connor scores his third try. Here's how it came.
Yes, good work from Cleal. Kenny backing up, as always. They seem to get in a little bit of trouble here with that long ball from Kenny. Was good work out to Bobby Lindner.
And Lindner straightened play up well here. Kept the ball alive. I thought Miles may have seen the play break down here, but the pass finally got popped up. Jack was there. Now watch Royce Simmons. This is great play by the Australian hooker. Finally, O'Connor with that step comes back in field, and that's another try to the green and goals. 20 points to 0.
Good work, Australia. It must just about be on half-time too.
So O'Connor's kicked 2 from 4. A chance now to put Australia in the lead by 22 points to 0. It's a difficult kick from touch, but O'Connor has landed a magnificent goal. And so, as we approach the half-time siren, there it is. Australia go to the break, leading by 22 points to 0. 2 tries to Michael O'Connor, 1 to Wally Lewis and 1 to Gary Jack. And Michael O'Connor has kicked 3 goals. The penalties favour Leeds by 5 to 2. And the scrums, Australia lead them by 6 scrums to 3. We'll take a break here on Network 10 and return to Headingley and Leeds for the second half in just a moment. So welcome back to the home of the Leeds Rugby League Football Club, the famous Headingley Stadium, for the second half of this Kangaroo tour match between Leeds and the Australian Kangaroos, with the Kangaroos coming back out onto the ground with a great lead of 22 points to 0 at half-time. A superb final 10 or 15 minutes by the Australians after a nervous start. And as I mentioned, the breeze gusting quite heavily here at the Leeds ground. Well, there's a pretty dedicated supporter of most clubs, I'd say, in England. There's Royce Simmons and Roach, both players having outstanding first halves and could very much be well in contention for our man of the match. 4 tries to Australia, 2 to O'Connor, 1 to Lewis and 1 to Gary Jack. And Michael O'Connor, in fact, has kicked 3 goals to add to Australia's tally of 22 points. Talking about the National Panasonic man of the series, the 3 points against Hull Kingston Rovers after the 5-try haul for Terry Lamb in his English debut. 3 points, Martin Bella, a very strong performance in the front row, and Stephen Folkes, 1 point, and in fact was chosen for today's game and was a withdrawal earlier this week. And Paul Siren, of course, winning his spot back in the second row. And we're talking, Gary, about the battle that's on for test spots only a week away. A cruel blow to Steve Folkes, who really did have an outstanding game against Hull Kingston Rovers.
Yeah, well, Steve's a very professional player, and unfortunately he thought he mightn't be fit, so he pulled out of this game, but I think he might be right for Tuesday, hopefully.
Well, there's 2 Australians combining to put Leeds on the attack in the opening minute of the second half. It was Morris and also Smith. Peter Sterling was offside, and the referee, Robin Whitfield, has no hesitation in ruling the penalty against Australia, as the man that went to ground was Norman Francis. And that's allowed Leeds to get well inside Australia's end of the ground. And another 15 minutes. Oh, my. Well, I thought that ball went into touch about 10 or 15 metres back. But that's where the play will restart. Morris, Gratian, Francis, and a beautiful tackle from Kenny. So Leeds on the attack with the Breeds at their back. Gratian, no support, runs to Sirinen. And we see Greg Dowling is on the field for Australia. He's trying to pick up who in fact has gone off the field. It looks as though Brian Niebling is the man that he's replaced. Gratian. So Dowling, of course, played in the match against Hull Kingston Rovers on Wednesday night, was very impressive. Came into the squad with the loss of Folkes as the ball's taken upfield by Gary Price, who on occasion in that first half looked very impressive. Now Gratian, left foot in the air. Sun and breeze a problem. Taken by Cleal. And a penalty goes against Leeds. Players inside the 5, and so the pressure will be relieved from Australia's goal line.
The Leeds players certainly put the pressure on then, David, and Australia responded well. One thing they can't afford to do is, we saw in the Wigan game, the Australians relaxed a little bit and unfortunately let Wigan back in the game.
Well, as I mentioned, they are running with the aid of a very strong breeze in the second half, but I think that those 2 very quick tries late in the first half could probably have given Australia the buffer that they wanted going into that half-time break. There's Roach. Looked very impressive in the first 40 minutes. The pass out the back door, picked up by Lindner. Takes play about 12 metres outside the 22.
Should prove to be a good move, bringing Greg Dowling on by Don Ferner. He'll be very keen to get into the action and try to impress for test selection.
Well, two bad handling mistakes. Well, the referee has allowed play to go on.
Of course, the other rule that they play over here, David, is we have the double knock-on rule that's enforced in Australia, where we pack a scrum, but over here it's not enforced.
Well, if they did employ that particular one, John Holmes should have been ruled offside, because he certainly was in front of the man when he kicked that ball back. But referee Robin Whitfield allowed play to go on. Lewis rips into Morris and puts him to ground. Gratian, dummy half. It goes out through the big second row forward, Phil Owen.
It's 3 in a row for Wally Lewis.
His work rate has been good on this tour so far. He is leading by example on and off the field.
Yes, he certainly is. He's a great captain and a great tour leader, and the boys are all very impressed, as I think all the officials are too.
Well, there's the kick. We'll go down in goal. So play, in fact, will come back to the 22. As that one line of Leeds defence stretches out across the Headingley ground as Simmons gets play underway through Roach. Well, I suppose one thing that would be a concern for coach Don Ferner, we noticed against Wigan twice in the first half and again early in the second half, that Australia's defence on some occasions does look vulnerable.
Yeah, it does a little bit. I think the guys have just got to adjust to the ball play of the Englishmen. They seem very willing to throw the ball around a lot, and we've got to respond to that.
Well, there was that wonderful stepping ability of Michael O'Connor that got Australia outside that danger area. Well, considering that the Kangaroos only conceded 7 tries on the Kangaroo Tour in 1982, their defensive record was absolutely superb. Here goes Gene Miles, support of O'Connor. Miles gets to his feet again, but finally claimed by Creaser in the tackle.
Yeah, one thing Don Ferner would have impressed upon the players is that they need some good work from Miles and Kenny in the centres, who unfortunately didn't have the best of first halves.
So Peter Sterling showing his own disgust at not being able to hold on to that pass, as Australia seemed to have leads at 6s and 7s on that occasion. And so it's Gascoigne that will work the scrum 10 metres out from his own 22. In the shadows of the popular stand here at Headingley. Well,
I don't think the referee quite picked that up properly. That was off Bobby Lindner's foot then.
Lindner also limping. Gary mentioned that he has been struggling with a cork thigh throughout this week. Robert Whitfield standing in the middle of the scrum as it packs down. Good strike that time by Morris. And finally, Mark McGaw taken in the tackle outside his 22. Holmes, Heron, Creaser. Smith, Heron, Gratian.
Good tackle from Paul Sirenen. Certainly a big lump, that Jeff Gratian, isn't he?
He's a big boy. Actually, I think got a feeling that Paul Medley may be on the field for Leeds as well, wearing 14, playing on the right wing. I see McGaw's out there. Eddinghausen is still there, so too is Francis. Yes, I see what's happened. Creaser, in fact, has gone back to fullback, and Gill, who was injured in the first half, is the man that's off the field as Gene Miles takes play inside the 22. Lindner, play on, says the referee, but he's lost it. So again, a costly handling error by the Australians. So just going through the changes to this Leeds side, Creaser has gone back to fullback, Gill is off the field, and young Paul Medley, who's scored 5 tries in the first 4 games with Leeds this year, one of the great prospects of English football, is playing on the right wing. So Leeds in possession, 12 metres out from their own goal line. Heron comes to Lewis and also to Sirenen. It's the Tari hooker Morris in a dummy half. Wrestled to the ground by big Paul Sirenen. Arguably the biggest player in the field out there this afternoon. Smith, and again a good tackle from Sirenen. And Simmons has come up with possession from Australia, for Australia. So that's great pressure in defence by Paul Sirenen, Gary.
Yeah, that's good work from Paul Sirenen. He obviously realised he's got to work hard.
Oh, there's an easy try by Crusher Cleal. Australia scores its 5th try. And it was also easy for big Noel Cleal from dummy half.
As we see so often, Noel Cleal made it look easy. He's an opportunist from this sort of position, and he just charges over from dummy half.
But it was aided from some woeful defence by the halfback Gascoigne. Also not his favourite side for the around the corner style kicker that Michael O'Connor is. But he's a beautiful striker of the ball, Michael O'Connor. He has now scored in excess of 120 points for his country. There's the kick, holding up in the breeze, coming across the face, but it's waved away. And so the scoreline, Australia lead by 26 points to 0 here at Headingley. Goal of Australia starting to move into full flight. Out through Dowling to Sterling, a long pass to Miles. Pass over the top, Lindner to Les Kiss with room. Supported Sterling. Good pass for Sterling. No support for Australia, is there? Simmons is there. Dowling, and another great try to Australia.
Well, Greg Dowling's just come on the field and stamped his mark on the game already. Good backing up from Peter Sterling and Greg Dowling.
And a great break from Les Kiss on the right wing. Well, this is probably worth having a look at again now. It came from just inside Australia's end of the ground.
Well, Dowling and Sterling involved early there too, and Gene Miles with that familiar basketball pass over the top. Bobby Lindner drew in the winger Francis. Good work.
This is good play here by Les Kiss. You see the cover coming across here in the form of Owen. He stood, got the pass back to Sterling. He was wrapped up by Price, stood looking for the man, and finally on the inside comes Greg Dowling. Too much power for Francis, and over for Australia's 6th try. So it's 30 to 0.
Well, they're making it look pretty easy out here now, David, aren't they?
Once they move into full gear, Gary, they are a very impressive side indeed. Michael O'Connor with the kick. That looks a better kick. But again, the breeze holding it up. So once again, Holmes gets the ball into play. Left back behind by O'Connor, picked up by big Gene Miles. Fed O'Connor. Now for Lewis. Oh, Gary Jack left it behind. Back for Lewis. The referee allowing play to go on. And the Australian captain is well and truly wrapped up inside his own 22. O'Connor. So Simmons feeds Dowling over the 22. Well, I think Greg Dowling knows the importance, Gary, of this chance that he's got from Don Ferner with the test match just 1 week away.
Yeah, he certainly does, and he's the sort of player that's putting a lot of pressure on the rest of his the teammates.
Creaser took the ball beautifully, but what a tackle from Lewis.
Great tackle, Wally Lewis.
Now Paul Medley runs to Sterling. Dowling bounced off the tackle. Bob Morris, a dummy half. Out for Gratian, in turn for Smith. And on the halfway mark, we see the Australian forwards, Lindner and Roach, wrap him up. Watch for the kick now from Holmes. He elects to unload the ball. Ooh, and charging upfield that time was Phil Owen. 30 points to 0. The Kangaroos in the lead in this third tour match of their 13-match campaign in Great Britain. That's a great kick. So the players vying for the National Panasonic Man of the Series, the man who polls the most points from the 3-2-1 judging in each of our matches that are being televised here on 10, is in line for a great prize at the end of the tour, $5,000 of products from the National Panasonic Company. And Winfield have also joined us for the Winfield Kangaroo of the Test Series. $1,000 in each of the Test matches, and that of course gets underway with the first Test at Old Trafford next weekend. So another scrum to pack down just outside Australia's quarter line. It's Andy Gascoigne that comes around on the commentary side of Headingley to feed the scrum. Holmes, Magor, Eddinghausen, support, or good defence from Kenny. Gascoigne's got it, and Kenny runs him down as well. These young Australian centres in the Leeds backline have looked pretty impressive on the limited occasions they've had to work the ball as Heron runs wide. And Simmons and Dowling combine to put him on the ground. Gratian. Dowling wraps him up. So a chance to work this side of the ground again through Heron. Morris. But Australia's defence has stood the test. Eddinghausen. Out to Holmes. Well, that's good defence again by Australia in the form of Sterling and Lewis. Final tackle now for Leeds. Holmes. Out for Gascoigne, but a penalty against Australia inside the 5.
I think that penalty was against Peter Sterling, leaving the mark too early to chase the kicker down.
Well, that's exactly as Robin Whitfield has ruled there, Gary. So a chance. Well, a replacement coming on. Trevor Skerritt, also a tourist to Australia in 1979. Leeds born, but played most of his football with Hull. Peter Smith is the man that's off the field for Leeds. Gratian, Gascoigne, Heron. Pulled out of the tackle of Sterling. Gascoigne. But again, Roach and Greg Dowling combined to put him on the ground. Morris. Open side again. Gratian. Morris. Darting run from the Leeds hooker. McGaw goes into dummy half. Heron. Francis. And he's only a metre short. Don't be surprised if Morris goes from... No, it's an Australian ball. Dowling. Lidner from dummy half. Settling play by the Australians. Roach takes it up the middle through Sterling. There's the gap that opened. Lidner again. His support play's been excellent today. Kiss. But he's claimed by the man on the left wing for Leeds in Norman Francis. Here's Crusher Cleal for Gary Jack. Support play again from Les Kiss. Francis in pursuit. Also Paul Medley. And Kiss goes to ground a metre short of the quarter line. Brett Kenny, Australia on the attack. Sterling sees the gap on the far side for Cleal. Simmons. Little kick over the top from Roy Simmons again. Will he get the bounce? No, he won't. So we've seen 2 kicks from Roy Simmons today. One led to a try by Wally Lewis. The second could well have led to a try to the Penrith hooker as well. 30 points to nil, Australia in the lead. And we've had about 17 minutes of play in the second half. Morris now. Creaser running the ball up from fullback. Morris. Gratian. He's left it on the ground. It's still a Leeds ball. Here's a great break by Eddinghausen. Fullback to beat. Kick over the top. But look at the positional play once again of Les Kiss.
Yeah, it's good work, Les Kiss. He's been all over the field today, and for my money, he's right up there with the man of the Matchwood calculations.
Here comes Gary Jack over the 22. Supported Brett Kenny, but he can't unload the pass. O'Connor. Simmons. Remembering that Australia are running into the teeth of a very strong breeze in the second half, but they've increased their lead of 22 points to nil at half-time to 30 to nil. With 2 great tries, one by Cleal and one by Dowling in the second half. Wally Lewis for Sterling. Here comes Cleal on the boil again, but he's driven back. Good pass for Serenan. But there's some tenacious Leeds defence. Medley was the man that came in from the wing. There's the crowd warming to this Leeds strong defensive effort on that occasion. Back goes Creaser, allowing the ball to bounce. Comes to O'Connor, and he's wrestled to the ground. So Morris, 10 metres short of his own halfway line, taken up this time by Trevor Skerritt. He's been battling a leg injury going into this match, and what's one of the main reasons that, in fact, he didn't start in the original lineup. Again, Kenny was the man that claimed Andrew Eddinghausen. Gascoigne, he's been a busy little player for Leeds today. Norman Francis, the left winger, feeds Gratian. He makes it to the halfway line. Final tackle for Leeds. They trail by 30 points to 0. Halfway through the second half, Holmes, a long kick over the top, rolling end on end. That's a superb kick. Well, I predicted that we'd probably see Holmes try and turn the Australians around, but really that's only one or two occasions that he's kicked in the second half. It's down 5 metres out. It's a scrum win to Australia. That's Sterling. Lindner has been the constant shadow of Peter Sterling from that scrum base this afternoon. Now Dowling hits it up for Australia, takes it to the 22, bumps out of 1 and 2 tackles, and that's good ground made by the big Australian prop forward, Al Simmons. For Roach, to Sterling, cuts out Jack and gave it to Kenny. But good defence by McGaw. Well, no love lost by the two Australians there, Mark McGaw and Brett Kenny. Kenny, in fact, is now minus a boot. Well, I think Mark McGaw's got a point to prove out there this afternoon. Gary's defence is very, very committed.
Yeah, he's certainly willing to get involved in the play.
Here goes Gary Jack. Taken by Skerritt in the tackle. Sterling, Lewis. A famous little kick over the top from Lewis. Miles couldn't hold it. It's been knocked back and dived upon by Leeds. And let's see who comes up with the ball. It's finally picked up by Owen. That's Brett Kenny doing the repairs to that right boot. That's a shocking pass. They could pay dearly for this as Lindner breaks away. Bob Lindner for the corner. That'll be another try. Wait for the referee, Whitfield. He's short of the line. Dowling tried to wheel out of that tackle. And Australia's still on the attack. Watch for Cleal. There's Simmons from dummy half. Driven back by Skerritt. The pass came out the back to Miles. Kiss. Through the dummy, Les Kiss. He's lost the ball. So once again, Australia turn over possession. Morris with his head down. 10 metres out from his own goal line. Gascoigne for Skerritt. Comes to Roach. And the shadows starting now to creep across the Headingley Stadium. A crowd today, I'd say, of probably around about 15 or 16,000. Who braved the earlier elements when we arrived at the ground an hour or so before the game, Gary. It didn't look all that promising, did it?
Yeah, it certainly was a little bit cold and the rain was coming down, but it's cleared up. Unfortunately, there's still that wind that's blowing straight through the grandstand here.
Holmes got away from one tackle, angles it towards the commentary touchline, and that will beat.
Well, that looked like a good kick from John Holmes. That I think he's going to be pretty happy with that because it seemed to have come off the side of his boot.
We'll beat Michael O'Connor into touch on this grandstand side of Headingley, so a scrum will go down. It's about 8 metres in Australia's end of the ground. Scrum win, Australia. Lewis picked up by Kenny. Now Miles straightens up play, pass back into Jack, and in turn for O'Connor, Australia's got the numbers. Kiss came back in. Has he taken the wrong option? A knock-on has been ruled against John Holmes.
Well, Brett Kenny was looming up on the outside there, and I'd a little bit doubtful about whether Les Kiss took the right option there.
Well, he seemed to have the numbers on the outside. He elected to come back infield, and the pass, in fact, was knocked down by the Leeds 5/8 John Holmes. So play now up Leeds end of the ground. That's the 22 line you can see in your picture. Sterling skirts the blind side. Bob Lindner slots in a dummy half. Lewis Long pass. Kenny. Support of Miles. Can't find it. Now Jack. Beat one, beat two. Gary Jack with the kick and chase. That should be a penalty. And a penalty to Australia.
Well, rightly so. I think Gary Jack was certainly going to score there if he hadn't been taken out of play.
Well, Wally Lewis took the quick tap. Australia rushing it a little bit, and they've paid the penalty. Well, gee, they were in a superb attacking position there, Gary, and really squandered it.
Yeah, they sure were. That's not the sort of thing that we need, but I suppose when you've got a lead of 30 points, you can afford to take a few risks.
Morris. Well, that's a poor pass. Watch for O'Connor, but Crease is the man that dives on it for Leeds. Morris.
He looks to be carrying an arm injury, that David Creaser, the winger.
Yes. John Holmes doesn't look all that flash either in back play. He's struggling on an injured knee. And there's the kick for the ball into touch. So we might just go back. Holmes is back at the fullback position, but actually we've got 3 Leeds players. Gascoigne on the far side looks a bit gingerly on that left leg as well. But we see the scrum going down. Fed by Sterling. It's an Australian win again, Lewis. Well, that's a dreadful pass. Well, that's not the thing that will be pleasing Don Ferner at the moment.
No,
I'm sure that a fair bit of discipline would still be the order of the day with the test match just a week away, and in a lot of people's eyes, Gary, this basically being Australia's test lineup.
Well, yeah, well, I can't see too many changes to the side. Don might see it a little bit differently, but it will be basically the same side, so they've got to work on their combination.
Gascoigne. Heron standing off the back of the scrum, charged down by Kenny, picked up this time by Eddinghausen, but he can't get the pass away. So Holmes is slotted back to fullback. Creaser has gone to the wing, so Medley in fact is now playing in the centres. Morris. That was Gary Price, taken on the 22 line. Skerritt, Morris, Gratian. Got the pass out the back to Heron. Now for McGaw. Got out of Sterling's tackle. Can't get around Dowling. Yes, he does. Sterling comes back with Cleal.
He's a pretty strong boy, that Mark.
Well, here's the Teppers. Price, Medley, and the roar of the crowd here at Headingley sees a Leeds attack thwarted by the Australian cover. Penalty goes against Gene Miles, and Gascoigne comes up to take the penalty for Leeds. Penalties favouring Leeds 7-4. The scrums favouring Leeds, favouring Australia 10-7. Morris. So there's the chant of the liners going up. They're known as the lead liners here at Headingley. Pass has gone Australian. It's an Australian ball. No, the referee, I think, is going to pack a scrum down. This has been appointed to referee the test match at Old Trafford, but I'm sure that the Australians will be quite happy with the refereeing performance of Robin Whitfield out there today.
Yeah, he's been very good, and as we said earlier, he's enforced the 5-yard rule fairly well, particularly for the Australians anyway.
Morris, Sheridan. Gratian. Lovely pass by Gratian. But the ball held up, no try. Correct decision that time by referee Robin Whitfield. But it was beautiful play from Gratian. As we said earlier, he has that marvellous ability to stand Gary and unload.
Yeah, he certainly does. He's so strong. I mean, it must be very hard for the players to get their arms around him. I'd like to see this. Having a look at this replay, it looked like the player forced his way over and couldn't get the ball down, but very late, just after the referee had ruled that he seemed to have got the ball on the ground.
The referee's whistle had already gone.
Yes, correct ruling.
So Australia with the scrum win, a yard out from their own line. We've had just under 30 minutes of play in the second half. Lewis taking play upfield. Well, the penalty goes to Leeds.
A little bit silly from Les Kiss there. It wasn't there. The referee's picked it up.
Well, Les Kiss shaking his head as Leeds launch an attack. Can they get on the board? I'd say that the Australian defence would be saying no. They would like to keep this goal line intact, because we saw 3 tries scored against them in the first match. Kerry Bowstead scored another for Hull Kingston Rovers on Wednesday night. Oh, that's a great tackle from Lewis. Gascoigne, look at Australia's cover. Francis now at a dummy half. Heron, long pass for Gratian. Back for Heron. Moving it now, Eddinghausen. Long pass. Creaser loses it. Dived on by McGaw, but he's lost it. And Michael O'Connor comes up with the ball for Australia. Dowling hits it up on that first line. And a penalty goes against Leeds. So Wally Lewis coming across with the ball. Driving play up towards the halfway line. Sterling, Lewis cuts out Roach for Miles. Kenny beautifully pull the pass in. That should be an Australian ball if Roach can pick it up, but he can't. Gratian. In fact, that's Gascoigne with the ball now. Morris saw the gap from dummy half, but claimed by his opposite number, Roy Simmons, and also the Australian captain, Lewis. Heron, Holmes, Eddinghausen, Creaser. But Eddinghausen leaves it behind. Cleal with the ball now. Good defence by Andrew Eddinghausen. Simmons. Dowling. Well, I've been very impressed with young Gary Price, the second row forward for Leeds today. He's got through a mountain of work in defence, Gary, and has also shown some glimpses in attack that he's busted the Australian line.
Yeah, he sure has had a great game, and he probably has been the danger man, apart from the centres, has been the lock, Gary Price.
There's Francis running square to Sirinen, bumped through the first tackle. But Royce Simmons was the man that was underneath. Well, that's Gary Price's second row partner, Phil Owen. Taking play to the 10-metre line. Holmes angling for touch again. Rolling end on end. And that's a superb kick that turns the Australian defence around.
That's a good kick, and that's gained all of 50 yards for him.
Well, all the experience of a man with 600 matches under his belt for the Leeds club. As I mentioned, a 77 World Cupper in Australia, toured again in 79, played in all the test matches in Australia, John Holmes, and enticed out of retirement in season 1986, Lewis. Lidner, his support play has been tremendous. Sterling, the pass is knocked down by Eddinghausen, but the referee will rule the knock on. So around about 7 minutes of play remaining in this match, and the scoreline 30 points to 0. Peter Sterling going off, Terry Lamb coming on. Well, what a debut he had on Wednesday night, Gary, at Hull Kingston Rovers. 5 great tries, and he's getting a great reception here from the Headingley fans.
Yeah, he's quite an amazing player with his support, and I think he realised with the forwards that we've got here, he just has to back up the middle, and that's what happened against Hull Kangaroo, and hence he came out with 5 tries.
Here's Simmons, Sirinen. Well, there's a big run by the Australian second rower. Popped the pass up, but it's taken by Holmes. Well, Australia are forcing those passes out, and they've paid the penalty on about 5 or 6 occasions in this match. Heron, lovely pass for Price. There he goes again. Creaser. Taken by Jack and Dowling. Well, once again, we saw Price split the Australian defence. Out through Heron. Well, there's no avenue of progress there with Roach and Lamb. Skerritt. Gascoigne. Got through Lamb's tackle. Skerritt. Morris. Good tackle by Gary Jack. So Price from dummy half. Gratian. Oh, that's been dropped by Medley. And dived on by Terry Lamb of Australia. So Australia, 30 points to 0. Now we see Australia's trainer Larry Britton coming around. On the far side, it appears that Paul Siren is the man that's been injured in back play. Dowling takes up play. About 10 metres out from the Australian 22. Crusher Cleal. So Paul Sirenin appears to be okay after the magical cure from the team trainer, Larry Britton. Brett Kenny, I think you can put your glasses down. Magore is chasing, but Brett Kenny scores Australia's try.
Well, that's put the icing on the cake for Australia. 34-0 with the kick to come.
Terry Lamb was the man that made the break.
And Brett Kenny backing up. Good work, Brett Kenny. It was a good chase. Mark Magore seemed to have picked him up a little bit here, but Brett just had enough legs to get him over the line.
So Kenny goes over for Australia's 7th try. They lead by 34 points to 0 as we fast approach the end of this match. Around about 3.5 minutes remaining. Michael O'Connor with a chance to add the further 2 points. There's the kick. Up go the flags. So the scoreline at Headingley, Australia leads by 36 points to 0. I suppose you're looking forward to Tuesday night under lights at Cumbria, Barrow Inverness, Gary, because no doubt you'll be given the opportunity to play your second match for your country.
Yes, hopefully I will. I think after today's run, Donnie might give most of the test players a rest. So I'm looking forward to that game.
Well, the intriguing thing about this Kangaroo squad of 28, there really isn't a second team. If you look at some of the calibre of the players with Meninga and Lamb and some of the lads that are running around in this so-called Wednesday side, I think it could well extend the English test side as Lamb makes the break again. I'll tell you what, he's going to be very hard to leave out of that test side at Old Trafford. Noel Cleal, Gary Jack, Cleal, Lidner's there as well. This will be a reward for the Queensland lock, but he's pulled down about 5 metres short. Terry Lamb was the man that made the break. Lidner, Jack, Cleal, Roach, Lewis, Dowling. Simmons, a dummy half. Leeds are short on this blind side. Roach, if they can move it wide, there'll be a try. Miles, but that's a great tackle from Creaser. Lewis, the pass looked forward. Michael O'Connor. Gene Miles knocks it on. Well, the referee's allowed play to go on.
He's asked the linesman's told him that was a knock-on, so he's backing the scrum down.
Well, I don't think there was any doubt that Gene Miles lost control of that ball. Terry Lamb, he's only been on a few minutes. He has already made his impact on this match. He certainly made an impact at Hull Kingston Rovers the other night with 5 brilliant tries. Terry Lamb affecting the tackle. And another. So 36 points to 0. Australia led by 22 points to 0 at half-time. And they've scored 3 tries in the second 40 minutes. Lidner with the tackle on Medley. Lewis also thumping him over the top. Back it comes for Holmes. Long kick downfield. Les Kiss and Gary Jack go back in retreat. So Les Kiss with the chance to run it up now. Has the support of Gary Jack, but takes the tackle 10 metres from the halfway line. So the Australians have scored 7 tries to 0. They won their second match against Hull Kingston Rovers earlier this week, 46 points to 10. They won their first match by 26 points to 18. So Australia with the undefeated record so far intact on this 86 Kangaroo Tour. Their next match is on Tuesday night. You can catch that action next weekend here on Network 10. The match coming from Barrow in Furness against the combined Cumbrian side, to be played on Tuesday night. Simmons. Lewis. It was meant to be angled towards the touchline. Back goes Creaser. Look at Lamb. Lamb and O'Connor combined. Morris. So, by my watch, the 40 minutes are up in the second half. So, all that basically is left is for the full-time hooter to sound, as Australia registers its third consecutive win on this Kangaroo tour. They've done it impressively. They've made some errors, but they've scored 7 tries to 0. Will this be try number 8? Lamb. Wally Lewis for the corner. Great try. Wally Lewis scores his second. And Terry Lamb has a hand in it as well. So Australia register its 40th point.
Yeah, Andrew Eddinghausen here, as you can see. I suppose when you're down 40-0, you try sort of things like this to try to put a try back on the board, but unfortunately it didn't work and went straight into Roy Simmons' arms. He fed Lamb and Lamb to Lewis in the corner.
Michael O'Connor has also had a field day again today. 2 tries. 3, in fact, for the tour. And he's also kicked his share of goals here this afternoon. That one won't be successful. And the hooter sounds. And Australia successful here at Headingley to the tune of 40 points to 0. Tries 2 each to Lewis and O'Connor, to Gary Jack, Noel Cleal, Greg Dowling and Brett Kenny. Michael O'Connor kicked 4 goals.